Let's bring in somebody who knows these crowds, all of these crowds, very well. Mick Mulvaney, the former acting chief of staff for former President Trump, and a former Republican congressman from South Carolina who was a member of the House Freedom Caucus. Mr. Mulvaney, good to see you, Congressman. This fight within the Republican Party goes back to when you were first elected to the House in the Tea Party wave in 2010. You were a leader of the Freedom Caucus. You even ran for Speaker yourself in 2013. 2015, you voted for Boehner as Speaker, though you had reservations. Tell us how you see this playing out.
Yeah, I don't think I ran for Speaker in 2013, but all the rest of that stuff is right.
Okay.
So, anyway, I didn't vote for Boehner, but I certainly didn't vote for myself.
Your name was floated, I should say. Your name was floated as a possible Speaker candidate, I should say.
That's very flattering. How does it shake out? Honestly, if it's not Kevin, I don't know who it is. And that's the conversation I've been having with these 19 Never Kevin folks. Many of them were my friends today, which is, guys, what's the plan here? If not Kevin, then who? And every time they give me a name, Jim Jordan's name has come up. They nominated Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan can't get elected Speaker. Keep in mind, any group of 5 or 6 effectively have a veto power right now. So it's almost going to have to be unanimous. And as much as I like Jim Jordan, Jim and I worked together for 6 years. We started the Freedom Caucus together. I'm a huge Jim Jordan fan. But you're telling me there's not 5 or 6 moderate Republicans who wouldn't accept Jim Jordan as Speaker and wouldn't, I think more importantly, empower the right wing of the party and reward them for this sort of behavior? No, I just don't see that happening. I think it's either Kevin or somebody that we don't even know about who's more to the center of my party, or a compromised person who's a Democrat. I just don't see how these folks who are MAGA Republicans, again, it's not the Freedom Caucus folks. The majority of the Freedom Caucus voted for Kevin McCarthy today every single time on every single vote, the majority of the caucus. So it's not a Freedom Caucus thing versus Kevin McCarthy. It's a group of people who happen to be in the Freedom Caucus, and I just don't see how anybody that they would find acceptable has the votes to get Speaker. I think it's Kevin or nobody.
So you heard Congressman Chip Roy, or maybe you didn't hear Congressman Chip Roy, but you've heard him over the last few days and weeks talking about what he wants, and he seems to want like a more open amendment process. He wants conservative representation on the House Rules Committee, et cetera. But I can't necessarily discern what the other 18 want. Congressman Byron Donalds just wants this to be over, obviously. But in terms of the other 18, is there an agenda there that you can tell other than they don't like Kevin McCarthy and they like to shake things up?
No, I think that's it. I think they really just don't like Kevin, and they like the attention. They like the chaos. They're on TV more in the last 48 hours than they've been for many of them in their entire careers. I listened to what Chip had to say. I like Chip. I respect Chip. But much of what he's asked for, Kevin has already offered him. A lot of the things he's complaining about, for example, the way the $1.7 trillion omnibus was handled by Nancy Pelosi, and some of the things he's asking for, Kevin's not in a position to give. For example, they want specific people on committees. That's not how the Republican caucus works. The Speaker doesn't populate the committees. The members vote on who goes on the committees, and they're asking Kevin to give them something he can't give them. I think I wasn't in the meeting today during the House Republican Conference meeting before the vote, but I understand that Kevin got up and said, "What more do you want?" And the answer was essentially, "We just don't want you." So I don't think this is about policy. In fact, I know it's not about policy. I don't think it's about practice. When we voted against John Boehner, we did it because he was trying to marginalize, in our opinion, the conservatives. Kevin McCarthy wants to make Jim Jordan the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. This is something we would never have dreamed of under John Boehner. So I don't think it's practical. I don't think it's policy. I just think it's a combination of they don't like Kevin and they like the attention. And that's a really, really bad way to run a Speaker race.
So I understand that you don't think bad behavior should be rewarded, but we are now in a place as a country that we have not been in since 1923. With somebody running for Speaker and not winning on the first ballot, second ballot, third ballot. Who knows how long this is going to go. At what point do you start thinking, I don't know that Kevin McCarthy can, win, and even if he can, I don't know that he can be the Speaker effectively, given the fact that he can't even get this done?
No, I think that's a fair point. I think that's one likely outcome. It's either Kevin or somebody less acceptable to me as a conservative than Kevin. I'll use a name, and it's a guy that I like, and he knows I like him, so I'm not beating up on him. Let's say that Fred Upton is sort of this compromise candidate, that a large group of moderate Republicans come together with Democrats and say, look, Kevin doesn't have the votes. They can't elect anybody because they won't take anybody to the right of Kevin. Jim Jordan doesn't have the votes. Run down the good conservatives. They don't have the votes. We need a Speaker. Will you vote with us with Fred Upton? that's got to be an undesirable outcome, and Fred wouldn't mind me saying that, from a really conservative standpoint. So there's a way that bad behavior wouldn't be rewarded, it would actually be punished, and that's what I'm afraid is one of the outcomes that might happen under these circumstances.
So here's another question for you. Donald Trump and his team are clearly behind Kevin McCarthy. It took them a little while to get there, but they're there. Donald Trump also wields incredible influence with these 19 or 20 rebels. In some cases, he created them. He's responsible for them. He's their muse. Where is he? Where is Donald Trump? Because this obviously is, whether or not it's bad for the country, it's definitely bad for House Republicans.
Yeah, look, where is he? Who knows, right? But where he perceived as being, because in this business, perception is often reality. I don't know if he's on the phone calling Dan Bishop. You know, he got Dan Bishop elected. Dan Bishop was one of the Never Kevin people. I don't know if he's calling Dan Bishop. But I do know this, is that it's perceived that Donald Trump is for Kevin McCarthy because he's been with him up to this point, and I have no reason to think he's against him right now. If Kevin McCarthy loses, it's a mark against Donald Trump, yet another mark against Donald Trump. He'll be perceived as being even weaker than he was coming out of the midterms. So the other person who stands to lose here, because he is invested in Kevin, is Donald Trump. I got to think that Trump knows that, and he's going to be working behind the scenes. Again, I don't have any information one way or the other, but I think you could say without reservation that if McCarthy loses, one of the bigger losers here is Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's unusual that he's been more critical of the cast of Hamilton than he has of these 20 rebels. But that's another story for another time. Former Congressman and White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, thanks so much. Appreciate it.